This session features 4 of our phenomenal City of Seattle colleagues. Our panelists, who will go into more detail about their backgrounds, are a little later. Are Sheri Rice, EC&M Supervisor with Seattle City Light, Jolanda Neal, Construction Engineer with Seattle Public Utilities, and Amy Bannister, Deputy Chief Communications and Support Services with Seattle Fire Department. Next slide. This meaningful discussion will be moderated by Kimberly Loving, who is the City of Seattle's Chief Human Resources Officer. So Kimberly has over 20 years of leadership experience in both government and private sectors. She earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics and International and Comparative Policy Studies from Reed College, a Master's of Business Administration from American University's Koga School of Business, a Master's of Legal Studies from American University's Washington College of Law, and is currently pursuing a doctorate in learning and organizational change at Baylor University. Phew! One of the many attributes that shines bright in Kimberly's leadership style is her leadership style. It is inclusive and tangible because she wants to see everyone. She is devoted to being an influencer who acts through inspiration and transformation. Her dedication to her work and the people she serves is best showcased by the following comments she shared. The most rewarding parts of my job are identifying creative solutions when there appear to be none, learning from people, paying it forward by sharing the lessons I have learned from my mistakes, and empowering others to act. And supporting the over 13,000 employees across the 36 City of Seattle departments, Kimberly holds steady to her leadership beliefs to strengthen her and her colleagues. She believes that you don't find the right people, you develop them. Her quotes such as, "You can be right and still lose," "Leading is hard work and it ain't about you," or "Great teams will outperform great people," are helpful reminders that we can all incorporate into the work we do. Not to mention that they would probably make great song or movie titles. Anyway, I can obviously continue to tell you so much more about how wonderful Kimberly is, but I know how eager everyone is to get to the what's equity got to do with the conversation. So let's get it started. But before that, sorry to backtrack again, just a reminder to allow panelists time to share their perspectives and to get through the prepared questions. We will not have audience Q&A at this session. So now on to what we've all been waiting for. Kimberly, welcome to the stage, or should I say the screens.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the fabulous opening and kind remarks, Ms. Dolores. I appreciate that. And to everyone joining us today, welcome, welcome, welcome. As Ms. Dolores just shared, I am Kimberly Loving, and I have the awesome privilege of leading the Seattle Department of Human Resources. So I'd like to give a quick shout out to everyone in the audience from SDHR. April 1st is going to mark my 7th anniversary. I can't believe it's already been 7 years with the city. I spent time in both SDHR and IT, so I should also give a quick shout out to my friends in ITD. Woohoo! I'm truly thrilled. I'm very honored when the team reached out to me. I'm thrilled to be here today to share this virtual space with all of you, and especially our esteemed panelists for the 2023 International Women's Day. What's equity got to do with it? Little Tina Turner there, a round table conversation with frontline city workers. This is just so important and so timely. We invite you to sit back and relax as we engage in a critical and what I also see as a precious topic to us here at the City of Seattle, and that's equity. So right now, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. Jolanda, would you like to go first?
Sure. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, my name is Jolanda Neal. I've been working for the City of Seattle in various capacity relating to civil engineering for the past 25 years. I first started off as an intern for Seattle Engineering Department back in 1993 in construction management. in that role as an intern, I was assigned to the Kent Highland landfill closure project. I had worked with Dick Gabrielson, who was the resident engineer for that the landfill closure project. Later on, I have worked with the Port of Seattle, where I was also served as an intern for their Southwest Harbor landfill and closure project. So with that, in that role, I performed quantity takeoffs for that Superfund site at the Southwest Harbor area. And upon receiving my civil engineering degree, I went back to the city of Seattle in the role of in the role of an inspector with street use in SDOT. There, I served as the district inspector inspector for the West Seattle area, where I basically focused on the inspection for private sewer and drainage lines on private property. I eventually progressed into a bigger role in inspection, where I perform inspection on street improvement permitting projects that is required for private developers to make improvements in city right of way for the betterment of the public, Towards the end of my SDOT experience, and with the booming economy of fiber optics and the sound transit and other major projects, there was an initiative where it required for SDOT or the city to look like we are working in cohesion with the private utilities. And that resulted in what we called a utility construction coordinator. And its main focus was to basically reduce the repetitive street openings that caused disruption to the public in the movement of traffic in the Seattle right away. So with that role, it requires an open line of communication and cooperation and coordination of various capital projects and private utility improvement projects amongst public and private agencies. In 2007, I moved over to SPU Construction Management, where I served as a resident engineer for various capital improvement projects for SPU assets. Currently, I am the resident engineer at the South Park Drainage and Roadway Partnership Project, where it's basically a partnership role with SDOT and SPU, where we are improving our drainage improvements and conveyance for the marginalized area of South Park, and also improving the roadway infrastructure throughout that area. So with that, that's my basic frontline experience with the city.
Well, doesn't sound very basic to me, Ms. Jolanda, and your camera's not on, so I wanted to make sure and tell you that, but
Okay.
Thank you for that. That was just a very, very rich, very, very rich experience there. Certainly not basic, but thank you.
Shall I keep my camera on, or should I turn it off when I'm only speaking?
No, ma'am, your camera is off right now. We cannot see you, and it'd be great for you to just turn it on and leave it on.
Okay,
There you go. There it is. All right. Thank you. Okay, well then why don't we just move on to, see, there's hearts. People are excited to see your beautiful face. Miss Sheri, are you able to come off mute and introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Sheri Rice. I am an EC&M supervisor with Seattle City Light for planning and scheduling. Let's see, I started back in 1998 as a flagger for the line crews. From there, I got on with civil construction and joined their apprenticeship, which was our first apprenticeship for utility construction workers. Completed that process and became a utility construction lead worker. And then I went to the line crews as a material supplier, working with the line crews for probably a little over a year, and then I got into our electrician constructor apprenticeship for being a high voltage electrician for substations. I completed that while carrying my first son. Uh, I finished that in 2004, and I stayed with substations for many, many years. And then I became a crew chief and went to coordination for South substations. So helped coordinate the work in the South substations. And then I went to shops as coordinator for shops, kind of going back to the kind of my home group of civil construction and some of the other trades that we work with within the city in Seattle City Light. And then from there, I became supervisor for planning and scheduling and helping organize the work going out to the crews from coming in from engineering and customers. And it's been a great ride. It's been unique. I've kind of rattled around in all the groups, and it's really been helpful to have a wide understanding of how the utility works. Yeah.
Thank you, Sheri. Thank you so much for sharing that. What great experience. And finally, Miss Amy, are you able to take yourself off mute and introduce yourself to the group? Thank you.
I just want to say thanks for having me. And as a citizen of Seattle, and the only place I wanted to live my whole life, I'm a Bothell kid. I have a new employee who I just hired for my quality assurance, and taking her around today just reminds me of all of the things that build into, you know, the city, and all the support and all the parts and pieces for all of us to be out there doing our job, making our city, you know, cleaner, safer, better functioning, friendlier, all those things. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has a piece in that. I mean, it's all the parts and pieces that come together for those of us who live here and those of us who are raising kids here and who also play here. And so thanks to all of that. I'm happy to be here today. I am a 27-year veteran of the Seattle Fire Department. I came in 1996. Like I said, I'm a Bothell kid, and I went to a Women in STEM, we didn't call it then, but conference, Shoreline Community College, when I was 16 years old, and saw a woman firefighter, and that was it for me. Athletic kid, good grades, come from a service family, and all I wanted to do with my whole life was be in the Seattle Fire Department and live on Capitol Hill, and I do both of those things. So I'm a very lucky person in that respect. I came in 1996. It took me 3 years to get hired. That's pretty typical, and it's very competitive. We have a 1,000-person department, and we reached the peak of our women in the mid-2000s at about 95, and now we're down to fewer than 70. So we're not hiring the same time that we're retiring. So it's even that more important for those of us who have risen through the ranks to continue to mentor and support women coming into the fire department, and helping them, women who are already in, helping them promote and getting where they want to be in the department. So that's an honor too. I worked as a firefighter for 25 years. Out in the field, I've been on 22,000 911 calls. I've seen it all, done it all. I think, I don't know, maybe, but I worked my firefighting time at 13th and Pine Station 25 as firefighter, and then I was promoted to lieutenant, did that competitive process, and we can talk about that later, to the old 23rd and Yesler station. I worked there. From there, I did 7 years down in the Rainier Valley, servicing that community. I made captain. Came to the communications division for a 2-year administrative stint, then went back out to Station 28, and then in the Valley, so I spent 10 years there, and then I was promoted to and went through the competitive process for battalion chief in 2015, and then I made deputy chief last year. I currently am the deputy chief of communications division, and the new also that was a full-time job, but now I have another full-time job, the head of support services division, which is a great honor also, which is the commissary, facilities, fleets, and procurement. So my days are pretty busy. doing that. And then I work on the weekend out in the field as a shift commander, which means of the 220 firefighters on duty, I'm the last person standing as the deputy chief in charge of the whole city on the weekends, and I will go to that position full time, probably beginning of 2024.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing that rich history with us. A Bothell kid. I like that.
Yeah, different town then.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Well, we're going to get right into it because I know both the panelists as well as our virtual audience here are really interested in the discussion and what we'll end up sort of covering around equity. So I'm going to use the same order if I could. And Jolanda, if I could start with you. The question that I'm asking the entire group, but starting with you, Jolanda, is how do you define embracing equity? And what are some ways that have helped you embrace it in your personal and professional worlds?
In reviewing this, well, when looking into this question, I dug into my personal life experience and reflecting upon my journey as I prepared for this question. And I came to the realization that I am a product of embracing equity. And I had to first define what equity meant to me. And what equity meant to me was fairness and equality. Equity requires an additional actionable steps that demonstrates how you value diversity and inclusion. And why I say that I'm a product of equity is that I am the middle child of 5 kids in my upbringing. I have 3 brothers and an older sister. I was born in Vung Tau, Vietnam, during the Vietnam War. My father is an African American soldier who met my mother in Vietnam, and my native tongue is Vietnamese. My mother became a widow after her first husband had died during the Vietnam War, since he served in the military for the South Vietnamese Army. With that, she was left with my 2 older siblings. Their name is Hai and Wei. During the war, we left Vietnam in a rush and came to the States when I was at the age of 3. We came to the States right before the fall of Saigon, and my father had to rush some paperwork because it was at the point where my oldest brother was required to join the military at the age of 12. So with that, he had relocated us first to Hawaii and then to Tacoma, Washington. And from there, our family grew, and my mom gave birth to my 2 younger siblings, and they were born in Fort Lewis in Tacoma, Washington. With the encouragement and support of my father, my mom maintained the tradition of the Vietnamese culture and language within our household. As you know, we were trying to assimilate in America. So back then, it was strongly encouraged by social workers that provided assistance for us to assimilate in America, that, we speak English 100% of the time in our household, but with my dad's direction and, encouragement that, he wanted us to speak in 2 different tongues, English and Vietnamese. So with that, we were able to pass on both the American culture and the Vietnamese culture. Later on, after graduating from high school, I was a college student at the University of Washington. And since I didn't feel comfortable with my communication styles, because I spoke 2 languages, I felt that my strong academic performance was in STEM. So I focused more in engineering. in sciences while I was at the University of Washington. And while I was a student at the University of Washington, there's a program called the Minority Science and Engineering Program. It was created for the focus and the purpose of making sure that minority students that entered the University of Washington, majoring in whether it's science or engineering based majors, that they are able to retain those students and provide the necessary resources in order for the students to successfully graduate from the University of Washington. And that provided a very valuable networking opportunity, a valuable support system where we help each other academically. And it also provided a personal experience with staff at the University of Washington. And with my experience at the University of Washington, it provided me the opportunity for internship. Originally, I was a civil engineer or electrical engineering major, and based upon my co-op experience, my work experience I was afforded to have, I worked at IBM. It made me realize that electrical engineering was not my cup of tea. So it made me reflect, and I decided to change my major into civil engineering. And so with that, I was able to get some exposure and professional experience with different aspects that revolves around civil engineering. So, and with that experience, I was able to get some internships with, as I've aforementioned, with the City of Seattle, with the Port of Seattle, and also with a WIMBY firm. Back then, it was a small startup WIMBY firm called SVR. They're very well recognized now as they perform quite a bit of capital improvement projects for the City of Seattle and other municipalities. So with that, I say that, all of that support that I have received throughout my journey, either from my family, my professors, institutions, and also my employer, I say I am a product of what embracing equity provides to an individual.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. And Jolanda, I've been pronouncing your name wrong. Please forgive me. I've been saying Jolanda and it is Jolanda.
Yes.
Names are important and pronouncing them is important. So I apologize for that. Okay, let's move on to Sheri. Embracing equity. What are some ways that have helped you embrace it in your personal and or professional world?
Wow. I think embracing equity, by nature, the kind of work that I've done over the years, it takes all kinds, right? So, the exposure was there. I grew up in a really small town, Stanwood, that didn't have a lot of diversity, but within my own family, there was quite a bit of diversity. So it was interesting to move through life. And then as I moved to larger cities, I grew up in Linwood after leaving Stanwood. The exposure is there. And then coming to work with the city, and it's been fantastic. I think you have to step outside of yourself a little bit and start embracing those around you. If you were working the kind of time and hours and the hard work that we were doing, say in civil construction, where I was digging ditches for 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week sometimes, you get to know your coworkers pretty well, and hearing their stories and having that empathy and just having some really honest conversations. You're pretty your humility is there when you're standing waist deep in mud. So, we got to have some really honest conversations, and it taught me a lot. So I think that helped encourage the empathy that means embracing equity. I think you have to go with it with empathy. Means everything, and it means releasing your own ego at times. And I think we oftentimes, it's hard to really, to find that release of your ego if you are taking it on as something is being taken away from you. And I think that, the more we all have these diversified work groups, and we have these varying lived experiences throughout our communities. And I think that Seattle City Light, by nature of what we do and where we're located, reflect our community. The more we've lived here, the longer I've been here, the more I see that our workforce reflects our community more and more. And I think that's such an important part of being part of a public utility doing what we do. You have to reflect the community that you're living in. And I think for me to embrace it, a lot of times was finding that empathy, being self-reflective and being honest with myself, and finding what my own unconscious biases have been. We all have them, whether we like it or not. And just becoming really honest with yourself. You can't change it if you're not recognizing it within yourself. I think if we point that finger at ourselves first, that's where we're going to start making those changes. And, yeah, I think you have to listen to each other, and you have to learn how to have those hard conversations, those conversations that are sometimes uncomfortable and challenge us. And we have to learn to hear those challenging conversations in an open way, stepping outside of yourself with the empathy needed to hear those conversations. Otherwise, it's not a purposeful or deep conversation. So I think, yeah, we have to drop our personal defenses.
Thank you, Sheri. That seemed to resonate. By the chat, I see folks commenting. You can't change it until we look at ourselves, and hearing as well. I can remember my mother when I was a kid saying, "You may have heard me, but you weren't really listening, and you weren't hearing, receiving the message." And that is just so critical. And that point about releasing your ego, which can be a struggle, right? For all
It's
of
hard to
us.
do.
It is hard to do, but
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Thank you for going there with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amy, up next, embracing equity. What are some ways that you've have helped you to embrace it in your personal and or professional life?
Somebody put in the chat asking how many women firefighters are women of color. And I, off the top of my head, I would say, I believe it's 8 or 9. So we're still working on a lot of those things, but
Got some work to go. Got some work to do.
always have some work to do. You've heard me. So equity is very complicated for a job like mine, a firefighting job. Women have been in firefighting careers since 1975 nationwide. We hired our first woman in 1977, but we literally have been in combat that much longer than the women who have only really been in combat since 2015, technically, right? We have been since 1975 working alongside our counterpart males since 1975 in combat, right? Fighting fires, going into difficult situations, saving lives. And all of these things are such an incredible makeup of people. But the biggest thing is you have to physically be able to do the job. And so when we talk about equity, and Kimberly, you talked about, finding people and then developing them. We literally have to find the people, especially the women, who can be successful and then develop them. There's no such thing as sending a group out to a fire and saying, well, you only have to put the small ladder up, but you over here, you can put the big ladder up. Or you don't really have to carry this body out, right? Everybody has to do the standard. So when we talk about equity, it's very different from a lot of different jobs. And I think that that's critically important to that discussion today, especially for firefighting, when, what I'm representing, because you have to do other things then to recruit the right people, and then support them along their journey. When I was hired in 1996, we still have selective certification. We had a physical agility test that was the hardest in the nation. And you knew if you could pass that, you could probably pass drill school. And we did stuff together to help ourselves get over those inequity humps that were difficult for women. We didn't have the background in working a chainsaw. We didn't tie knots. We weren't in the Eagle Scouts. We weren't, we weren't in the military. We don't come from the military. Everybody thinks, it just, right? So we helped each other with those things that could help us, that were inequities in our experiences, but nothing can help you except for being strong and doing the job. And then all the other things, which is being able to be calm under pressure, being able to take orders, being able to give orders, being able to work as a team, serving your community, being able to stay healthy, physically, mentally, spiritually, everything that you need to do to absorb all of the trauma that we absorb over time. Every single terrible article that you read in the newspaper, we've been on it. And so when you talk about equity in the fire department, it's really about, for women, it's finding the right women, because there's not going to be that many. 4% nationwide career women firefighters. It's been that way since the entire time I've been in the fire department. I don't expect that to uptick that much. It would be great if it was double that. But the truth is, there are just physical standards that you have to recruit for that first. You literally can't make somebody taller, bigger, stronger. You can make them stronger, but you can't make their arms longer, or you can't take a 4'11" person and make them into a firefighter, right? And these are not all gender, things. These are body things. And so that's what makes our job so unique in the equity. So I was selectively certified, and that went on. So that was like a band, right, of 25, and it was the physical test and a written test. And they were percentages. And so I was like, okay, I got to knock it out of the park on the physical, and then I've got to do really well on, to even be competitive. There would have been no women hired going straight down the list, except for selective certification. And a lot of those women have been very successful. Then comes along I-200 and all that gets thrown out. So the equity becomes different. How do we continue to offer those jobs to the women who can be successful? Right, so that changes, that throws everything out. But the really great thing for me in my career is that every single promotion that I've taken since I've gotten into the fire department, and I've had a lot, right? Lieutenant, captain, battalion chief, deputy chief, which you have to study like 1,000 hours for, and it's completely like the most competitive process you can imagine. It was a level playing field. And that's what you need to have the respect that you've had the experiences, you've gone on the calls, you've commanded your crews, you've been a good teammate, you've been a good leader, then you've been promoted in order so that you have the respect when you get to where, the higher levels. So it's a little bit different than other jobs, but I'm grateful for that because I've proved myself, and that makes me feel good. And my job now is to find the right candidates and mentor them and help those people believe that they can do this job, because this job is an awesome opportunity to serve our community in a very unique way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. And paying it forward, it sounds like it's just who you are. Thank you so much for sharing that. Ms. Jolanda, up next, how has workplace equity changed in your current line of work? What do you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10 years?
So as I mentioned before, from my college experience and and what it had provided for me, it provided experience in the public and private sector. And with that experience, it led me to focus in working in the public sector. And which is now I work for the city of Seattle. With the engineering industry, it's predominantly comprised of men. And with the increasing numbers of STEM occupations and professions, we're still underrepresented. So based upon, the U.S. Census Bureau, even though women compose 50% of the workforce, we only equate to 25% of the STEM field professions. So we still have a long ways to go in regards to that, but we're making improvements with those numbers. One of the major, I would say, small actions that the city has taken but provided great impact in regards to equity is how we conduct our interviews. As part of the interview process, you now see interview panels that is more diverse, that provides, they come from different backgrounds, they come from different lived experiences. And with that, you're able to give a fair feedback in regards to the candidates that they interview. With that, also, you have the questions that are asked in the interview panels has changed quite a bit from the time that I have started working for the city to its current state. So not only do the questions revolve around the candidate's professional experience, related professional experience for the position that they're applying for, but it also asks for questions that are not related to their job duties or professions, because we recognize the fact that we serve a city that is very diverse. We provide support to a range of social economic backgrounds. So with that, there are questions that are asked of the candidates of their lived experiences and how have their lived experience translated into either their current position that they are working at now, and how it would also translate into the position that they're hoping to be hired for. So with that little change in the hiring process you see in the city, it created a wealth of opportunities for people of different backgrounds. So my prediction in the next 5 to 10 years, I think we will still continue to make progress in regards to increasing our numbers in the workforce in the STEM field. So there are programs, there's policies that begin with primary schools that encourage girls to look into engineering, science as a way of, besides, your traditional, I guess, reading and writing girls are, and communications that a lot of schools are normally focused on. So with that outreach that is really intentionally made at the primary level for girls, I think it will increase our numbers, and it will provide a great contribution that they may present in the future towards a better community, a better society, the advancement of technology, and also and a great contribution of economic growth. And with that, my daughter has always told me that, my youngest one, she has always reassured, and not reassured, but remind her dad and myself that, she's not a prop, but she is a main character in this world. And that's how a lot of the girls are now being seen as, is that they are a contributing factor towards the future development and the quality of life for our world.
Well, she sounds fierce. Jolanda, thank you so much. Yeah, she absolutely sounds fierce in a very, very good way. That's fantastic. So I'm going to keep us moving along because looks like we're approaching the top of the hour here. So, Sheri, in your opinion, what could leadership in your organization be doing to advance equity? What feedback, I suppose, what do you have for leadership today?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. I mean, I used to think that maybe we didn't have, using women as an example, we weren't hiring as many women as we could because of a lack of exposure, knowledge, like the jobs were available to women, right? And then a very smart woman looked at me and said, I think it's more about supporting the people that are here. So if you can't support equity in your workplace or that diverse background in the workplace, then how can you bring new people in? So if we're looking at wanting to make an equitable work environment, we have to have the infrastructure to support that diversity. And what that means and how we support that looks different for each one of those people. So we need to have that internal flexibility to have that communication available and the support systems. I think it's pretty easy. I mean, it's easy to say, harder to do, right? But I think you have to have the communications available and the support structure for people to go and even talk and to have a safe space to have those conversations that will point out where our pain points are. We can't know our pain points until we allow people to talk about those pain points. So to support the equity, I think that's one of the first things we have to do is internally build those structures to have that support.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Sheri. That's both simplistic and profound. Thank you for that. It is.
Yeah.
Amy, in your opinion, what could you or your peers be doing? Maybe it's directed at peers to advance equity at work.
My peers in terms of women, they can knock it out of the park, do a good job, right? I mean, that's always the best way is, and we know as women, we're going to have to do, twice as much and get a quarter of the credit sometimes. But really the truth is that if we do a good job, that's the best thing that we can do for equity. And especially when we bring diversity to the table and we bring it in a way that is enriching and helps with the problem solving. And in our particular firehouses, right, we have a very unique community, and so we're living together like brothers and sisters and families, and that can get complicated at times. But somebody who knows how to be somebody who, women can help with equity in those cultures by doing a good job, being very professional, having good boundaries, striving, supporting others, and just bringing that other element to that community and that firehouse to bring it up and make it better and make it a place where everyone can belong.
Wonderful. Yeah, where everyone can belong. How about that? All right. Oh, lots of hearts and lots of reactions to that. Jolanda, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to go around here less than a minute and answer the following question. Jolanda, Sheri, and Amy, what is one piece of practical advice you would give someone starting off in the same path as you? What would you tell yourself based on what you know now?
Well, I always use wisdom passed down from my parents or my grandparents, and my advice would be the fact my dad has always lived by the saying of information is power. I experienced and seen personal growth as a result of acquiring knowledge I've seen growth through my daughter's experience of her doing volunteering services. You recognize that when a society invests in a girl's education, the community is transformed for the greater good. The economy is strengthened. There's more stability and resiliency in society that is created. And they are empowered to make decisions that affects them and their family. So with that, I bring up my two daughters. I have two daughters and a son. And even though I'm proud of my son, but today is it's about my daughters. I have the oldest one. She's 21 and she attends Western Washington University. She is a student athlete at Western, and she actually had recently won the national championship in women's soccer in Division II. She also decided to go to Western, even though she was recruited in other Division I schools, but she decided to attend Western Washington because they didn't place boundaries upon her in regards to what she wanted to major in. She wanted to major in chemistry or biology. That basically led to her going into the field of medicine. A lot of times, student athletes are not afforded that opportunity because of the rigorous requirements that they are placed in Division I. My youngest daughter, she has the same type of experiences and opportunities and exposure that her oldest sister had went through, but her path, she decided that her path will be different. Even though she has been given opportunity to play at the next level, she decided that her focus is she wants to embrace the college experience in a different manner of attending school spirit functions, participate in a lot of associations that the college may offer, and also she wants to she's heading to the pre-law route. So with that, I've been seeing that the next generation of girls coming through the pipeline, they are more equipped, they're more knowledgeable, they're more cultured, they're more experienced and exposed to other cultures, current societal issues, environmental issues, and they have no fear of taking on those challenges in order for them to have a better quality of life and improve upon that quality of life than what we have been giving them. And also they have taught me, life lessons in regards to making sure that, I should be less reserved, be less traditional, think outside of the box in regards to, how I see things and how I solve things in regards to life challenges. And in regards to what advice I have for the ladies that are coming through in the future is that, I would say enjoy the process, embrace it. I would say, from my own experience, that my success didn't come through tuition alone. I had a network of people that helped me achieve my success.
That's right.
I have where I'm at the position I'm at right now. So, and you know what? And I
Yolanda,
yes.
I'm sorry, I'm getting pinged here. We're
Okay.
running out of time. It's a rich story, and I don't want to be rude, but I want to make sure that both Amy and Sheri are able to add before we get cut off. So
Okay.
thank you so much. Your
Thank you so much for having
family.
me.
Hang on, but don't hang up yet.
Okay.
Sheri, on to you. One piece of advice you'd give someone starting off in the same path as you, please?
Yeah, I would make it short and sweet. As a woman in a trades field, you have the right to take up space. Have your boundaries set, have your voice, and speak your truth. If something is making you uncomfortable, say it's making you uncomfortable. My philosophy has always been, If I offend you, please tell me. If you offend me, I will tell you. We can't have communication without communication. Funny how that works.
Thank you, Sheri. Amy, one piece of practical advice you'd share with someone starting off. You're muted.
I have 3, but they're real quick. Take advantage of the STEM and trades jobs because it's better money. And there you have every right to it, just like my counterpart said there. Number 2, I would have to say there's nothing more important than being your authentic self. Loving yourself, saying you're worth it to making your way in these careers. You got to be your authentic self and find out who that is so that you can make your way. And the third thing I just want to say is it's not personal.
It's really not.
It's not personal.
It's really not. Well, Jolanda, Sheri, Amy, it has been an absolute pleasure. For those of you watching, we certainly hope that you found this rich dialogue of interest and of value. I certainly did. This has been an absolute pleasure. And I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be handing it over to now.
So thank you again, Kimberly, for moderating. You
Thank you,
are a
Jolanda.
pro, and that was beautiful. So I appreciate you. And my goodness, can we just take a moment, you all, to applaud these amazingly talented individuals? I am so honored to have been a part of the IWD planning team because I have met so many great people over the last 2 months, and I would have not have heard their stories or met them otherwise. So again, many thanks to Kimberly, Sheri, Jolanda, and Amy for taking the time with us today. Your nuggets of knowledge that you have shared were beyond insightful and encouraging.